All right, and just a reminder for people who may be listening to this audio only, whether it's now or on the tape, please identify yourself when you are speaking. With that, Joe, I'll turn it back to you. It's your meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, Commissioner, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, yes, so who's
So we're missing Wayne and Tim.
Wayne? All right. So we see, and then we do have one. Do we still have an open seat? Has that been?
No, I believe Bob, right? Mark has to be voted on at the next Board of Selectmen, right?
Yeah, this is Bob. That's correct. That seat will be open until next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay. So we have three spots open.
But that's an alternate seat, so
Oh, all right.
we have five regulars.
Okay. So we only need to see two people. You're right. Sorry.
At the moment, we have one. So this is Dave. I'll make a motion that we seat Dick Wells for Wayne Ruddy.
All right. Because Tim's popping in now. All right. Do we have a second?
Sorry for being late.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Great. So I think we're all set now. Tim's here. So that we only need to do that one seat. Okay. So I guess before.
I just mentioned that Joanne is not here tonight either, so I need to try and keep the minutes, so talk slow and state your name.
It is being recorded, so that will help a little bit.
Oh, great.
But yeah, whatever we can do. All right, so before we actually jump into the budget, I just I don't know if everyone had a chance, excuse me, to think about for the budget workshop. So I just want to say that to the end, if who they might want to bring in to talk to, and I think because ambulance is up, I would assume the majority of us would want to understand what's going on with them financially. Is there any other departments? I mean, if they scan the budget, and so I don't know if anyone looked at anything, and there's questions that they would think they would need a department head versus, Bob to be able to give us background. Is there anything critical that we need to invite?
And the ambulance was certainly the one that jumped out.
Yeah, and the other one, again, if we can tie it in with capital, and it's a little early for that, maybe Public Works, because it's the biggest other,
Right.
Multiple departments that that is the majority of our non-education budget. If we could tie that in with capital, that would make sense. So capital is a little ways out. Understand we're at the beginning of requested data, so that might be a little bit later. So we can look at if we wanted to schedule both of these a little bit later in the process, so we only have to ask them to come one time. Okay.
Yeah, as we go through this, we may have a couple more, but off the top of my head, I think those are it's Tim Turian, I'm sorry. Those are the couple we may want to talk to. And again, this may be a question of salaries, but a bunch of things in the land use area that seem to be higher than they were 2 years ago, not even last year.
Yep, and we can, yeah, we certainly, I'm sure Bob, the selectman, have some input on that, and then we can certainly, if we want more information, we can go there. Salaries are kind of placeholders right now, but okay, so we'll have those two on the list, and as Tim said, if something else comes up along the way, we can certainly add it, but we'll probably push that out a little bit until, again, we can combine that with capital. All right, I'm just playing around with the numbers and making some assumptions as far as what the request is, and again, there certainly are some holes as far as things that are not complete or pretty rough estimates, such as police, the benefits number, dispatch, which probably is not going to move a lot. So just the starting point, and just assuming capital is the same as last year temporarily, we're starting out just on the general government side about $250,000 higher than last year. Again, we already know ambulance is more than 1/3 of that. So that's our starting point, and we can we'll go through and then go over the questions, but just for perspective where we're starting, and of course the biggest unknown, I guess we find out next week, is education. So where that number is, and again, as we talked about, our percentage is slightly down, but we don't know where their number is coming in. So again, once we have that piece of information, we'll have a better perspective on the big picture. But so I think we can just start at the top. Some of these budgets, and of course Bob is here, and I think I saw Kate is here too. If there's any explanation needed about some of these, then they can jump in and talk about that. So start with first selectmen. The budget request is up a net of $1,100.
Are we talking about it, or is Bob going to take us through it? I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Well, I think Bob will jump in if we have specific questions on any line items, but I guess you just open it up for discussion on this item. So any questions or comments, or we can move to vote on it. So whatever.
My one question is a clarification question, Bob, and forgive me because I probably should know this, but what is TLD coverage?
This is Bob. That is coverage for the town office building. That covers, and you'll note in there it's increased, but it's increased because the receptionist wages, and that's been a vacant position for a couple of years, have been moved in there. But what we use that money for is we've got extra custodial coverage right now because of the pandemic, and quite honestly, that will probably continue simply because the cleanliness and for a couple of other reasons. Plus, if we have to use any overtime coverage, or if we have to bring in anyone to cover a position temporarily, that's what that line is intended to finance.
Perfect, thank you. I just couldn't remember what the acronym was. Well, I, for one, think it's more than good, reasonable, and I, for one, would say we should. I would suggest we approve it.
And that is a motion? Yes.
Yep, motion approved.
Tim, are you making a motion?
I'm so sorry. I am motioning to approve.
Okay. Do we have a Second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Richard Wells, second.
Okay.
Sorry, Dave.
Any further discussion, questions on selectmen budget?
Nope.
This is Bob. Just to clarify again for the recording, we're approving the budget covers a line item 010 selectmen in the amount of $172,000, 105 as requested by the Board of Selectmen.
Right. Well, I'm going to do this in the negative. Anyone opposed to approving this budget? Abstain? All right. Motion passes. Approved at 172,105. All right. The next budget up is the finance director budget. So this line item, this department is up from 135,432 to 144,507, up $9,075 from prior year. You know, the biggest increase is in the proposed finance director salary, and that's partially due to making sure that this is a full-time position, because it definitely needs to be a full-time position, and secondarily, that's a level of experience we're looking for that's closer to market. So for those two reasons, and that number's up, and based upon a second round of requests that Bob mentioned, that we do have some good candidates, so that increase in that salary seems to have allowed us to get some candidates that can help us out. That's a little background on at least where that number is coming from. And the treasurer's salary, again, now it's an appointed position, so that's currently open. That was attached to the finance director. Just to clarify that, since that has been combined with the finance person.
Bob, this is Dave. I see the financial office coordinator, that's dropped, 6.5%. Are we anticipating less usage next year?
This is Bob. Not less usage, but that's a more accurate reflection of the salary and the hourly wage and the number of hours worked. It's just it was fine-tuning. Some of the salary numbers were fine-tuned. In fact, they were all fine-tuned, so there should be a more accurate reflection. Again, there's also, as I said before, a 2% potential bump built in there because it's a negotiation, so we don't know.
Just to clarify, again, the amount's 144,507. That $100 I don't think made it into the formula. So if you're looking at what was sent out, this is up $100 higher. So again, it's at 144,507.
This is Dave. I would make a motion that we approve the finance department in the amount of $144,507.
This is Tim and I would second it.
Any further discussion on this department? All right. Anyone opposed to this motion? Abstain? Okay. Motion passes. 144,507 for the finance department. Approved. Next one up, regional probate court. Budget 2661, 2,661. No change from the prior year. We have
And that
paid
was-
26660 the last couple of years, so that would have seemed an appropriate number versus, I know a dollar makes no difference, but the actual bill we're getting is, if you look at the prior years, it was 2,660.
Joe, this is Dave. That's a set amount that they dictate, so we have no say over that either.
Yes. Yes. You're correct. We are billed because we're part of that, and that's the bill they send us, and we don't, there's really no negotiation.
And I, for one, Tim Turan, would suggest that I motion to approve 015 probate for 2,600, excuse me, and $1.
All right, I think we should be budgeting the actual amount. I don't know why we're budgeting a little bit more, 2,660.
I'm sorry, 2,660.
Yes, just this is, excuse me, this is Bob, just as a point, that figure, I don't know why it's the odd dollar, but that's what the probate court told me, so.
Okay.
So just so I can get it clear in the record, which are we doing, 60 or 61?
I would suggest we do 61 if that's what they told Bob, and then if we get.
61? Okay.
But they keep telling us 61 and billing us 60, but it's fine. We'll do it as recommended at 2,661. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Who was that?
Wayne,
Oh, okay. Thank you, Wayne. Joe, is Wayne automatically seated now that he's on?
I think that's what we've done in the past, but I don't know.
It just makes a difference, right, in who can vote. So Wayne votes, and then Dick would not be able to.
Right, I think that's the way we've done it. Okay. So, all right, whoever has that background on, if you could please turn that. Right, so probate court at 2,661. Anyone opposed to approving this budget?
I just have a question. It's Tim Turan. Why do we think that the election wages this year will be 3,000 and change higher than they were during the national election last year?
So Tim, we're still approving the probate court, and then we're gonna move on to that budget.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
We just gotta vote on this, and then that's the next one. So, opposed? No. Okay. So that motion passes at probate court at 2,661. Okay, whoever has that background noise. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Bob Wayne, just to let you know, that background noise was you, so I've muted you. If you have to talk, you're gonna have to unmute.
Okay, election. Now, Tim, your question was salary.
Yeah, my apologies. Just understand, it seemed, again, my naivete, I'm sure, but why do we think that the wages will be higher in a non-election year than in a non-national election year?
All right, this is Bob. Tim, if you're looking at that first line that says wages,
Yep.
it's the wages paid to the elected officials and assistants. So that's, again, the 2% bump anticipated for salary negotiations.
Gotcha, thanks.
But that's 11. It's 11% increase. So so that's kind of where the question is coming. It's 11.63% increase. So there's more hours in there or something because it's not 2%.
You're right. I can track that down if you want and have it for the next meeting.
I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's just a question.
Right.
Okay. I mean, is it anticipated if we're doing different types of voting? Because wasn't this line over in the current year? Because we do have municipal elections in November, just not national.
This is Kate. If I can jump in, I do remember when the Board of Selectmen discussed this, we had received a request from the Registrar of Voters for a what I would consider a minimal wage increase. And I think that might account for some of the increase as well.
Would that be based upon hours or more than a 2% increase in the rate?
No, it was based on more than a 2% increase of the rate. I don't have the letter handy, but they did mail the Board of Selectmen a letter, and it was requesting, oh gosh, it was like $1 or $2 wage increase per hour. And I think for the assistant registrars, it was like, 50 or 75 cents. I can track down that letter and send it to you, Joe.
All right.
If you didn't get it as well.
I didn't get anything directly unless it's town hall. But
Okay. Yeah, it was
All
a few months ago. It was not long after the election. So let me find it.
All right, this is Bob. I would also point out, if you look at the year-to-date expended as of basically the beginning of February, we have almost expended the year's appropriation. And these wages do continue. These are year-round wages. It's not,
Yep.
yes, it's more obviously during the election, but they continue year-round. So this, what I'm telling you, this line will be over for this year, is my expectation.
do we want to get a little bit more information on that line and table this, or do we
I think so.
follow with this budget?
Can we approve it with greater clarification?
We can approve the budget subject to review of the salary line. And once we get that data, then we can revisit the line. If that's, I mean, obviously that's the only line that's changed, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay with that. I'd be okay with, I mean, again, we're not talking in the scheme of things about a huge amount of money. It's just to better understand it. And God knows they do terrific work. So I would not be, I certainly would be the first to say they deserve, as much money as we can give them. So I'm not quibbling on that one. That's Tim speaking.
So is there a motion then?
All right, so Tim Turan will, for the line 020 elections, make a motion to approve the $62,041 with just greater clarification on the salary line so we understand it, not to quibble it. Query it.
Sandra Olson, I'll second that.
Great, thank you. And any further discussion? All right, anyone opposed to the motion of approving the election budget at $62,041? Abstentions?
Joe, yes, this is Dave. I'll abstain since I work for elections.
Okay. All right, motion carries. Department's approved at $62,041, subject to just a review of the salary line, additional budget support. Great. All right.
Hi, this is Sandy Olson. Now, he works for election. Does that mean if you help with the election day, like I worked on at the polls? That's not what we're talking, or are we?
Yeah, I get paid by, this is Dave, I get paid by the elections department for working, therefore I feel it's inappropriate for me to vote on the budget.
Oh, okay. So then maybe I shouldn't have seconded it. I don't know. I've only worked there once.
Yeah, this is Bob. Sandy, I don't think it's a problem with you seconding it, because you can second a motion and then ultimately vote against it or abstain. Seconding just allows it to be discussed, basically.
Okay, great. So then I guess I should abstain also? I don't know. So I guess I abstain also.
Okay, Sandy, I'll add that to the record.
Yeah, and Dave, you got to add me too, Mark Otterberg. Abstain.
Mark? What about Wayne? Wayne, you're muted.
All right. Good with that one. Elections. Next one is Board of Finance. May still have to revisit the increase that you see there. The $3,000 is basically an estimated 3% increase, which is traditional, and for fiscal 20's audit, because of the bridge program, we had to have a federal single audit, which we haven't had to have in the past. So that the estimate for that is $2,500 for fiscal 20. So at some point that $42,000 budget will be over by that 2,500. So we would anticipate that next year, because the bridge wasn't done by June 30, that we probably will need a federal single audit again for 2021. So the increase basically is from 42 or 44.5 to the 45,525. So it looks like a big increase, but we'll actually be paying 44.5 for the 2020 audit.
I'm sorry, so the 45.25 we're showing right now for year to date will actually, part of that will offset the coming year, is that what I understand?
No, I'm just in the 21 budget, we only budgeted 42,000.
Right.
You're going to need to pay 44,500 because the 2,500, the single audit, when the auditors used the fee, we weren't subject to federal single audit, but based upon that bridge grant, we are subject. So they came back and said, well, it's going to cost more. And I can tell you, there's more time, it does cost more. So we agreed to give them 2,500 more for 2020. So I'm just trying to explain the increase. The increase is really from 44,500 to the 45,525. So the increase is really only 1,025. It's not 3,025. So just giving you perspective on why it looks like that number went up a lot is because last year's budget hasn't been adjusted for what we will ultimately pay.
So say, maybe I'm saying it badly, that means this year we'll be over by 2,500, next year we'll be over, but we'll just have another $1,000 on top of that.
Right. Exactly. So at some point we'll have to approve a transfer to cover that 2,500, but we haven't been billed for it yet, so it hasn't come up as a transfer.
Thanks for the clarification. I was just a little confused.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion on our budget?
Yeah, this is Dave. I'll make a motion. We approve the Board of Finance in the amount of 46,525.
Tim Turan, I'll second it.
Okay, great. Any additional discussion? Okay, anyone opposed on approving the Board of Finance budget at $46,525? None, abstain? All right, motion passes. All right, the next budget up is Assessor. This one. Recommended budget is $133,058. Is a net decrease from the prior year of $4,759. That's made up of two components: the assessor salary increase and assistant decrease. And so we'll just get that out of the way and ask Bob.
Yeah, this is Bob. If you're asking about the assessor, the assistant decrease, we have a new person in the position. The previous assistant wages, assessor wages reflected the fact that the assistant became qualified as a Connecticut appraiser certification level 1. So she was being paid at a higher rate because of that. So the combination of someone new and someone who doesn't have that certification is what's driving that reduction in salary.
Okay. And the assessor salary, that's a 4% increase.
And you're right. And that one was based on the general 2%. Actually, again, some of the differences between the 2021 appropriated budget and the budget request that you see there for this year is because we refigured what the budget should have been for 21, basically, for the current fiscal year. And that's what that, there weren't any other adjustments to her salary beyond the 2% estimate.
Okay, so it's a 2% on actual, it calculates 4% budget.
This is Bob. It's a 2% and a correction of what should have been in the current year's budget.
Okay, great.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Again, quibbling on money. I mean, quibbling on small numbers, but wasn't there a 2% increase, 73 to 74.6, and then there's a 4% from 74.6 to 77.6?
Okay, this is Bob. Tim, what you've got in there, the way we did the salary figures this year for everybody, basically, is we didn't even look at the current appropriated budget. We took what is their current hourly wages, how many hours in a year are they working. That gave us a base figure. That figure was, and then 2% was added to it as a contingency for negotiations. So it wasn't that we looked at last year's, the current, actually not last year, the current budget amount and said, okay, we're going to bump that by X%. We just ignored that and said, really, what should that have been accurately? Came up with a number and then bumped that number 2%.
So it's based on hours as opposed to a budget. It's actuals versus budget.
Yeah, this is Bob. That's another way to look at that.
Got it. Thank you. I'm so sorry for being slow on this one.
Not a problem. If I didn't explain it well enough, keep asking me until it's clear. It's easy for me because I've done it so long. Yeah, everyone does. Obviously, that's not the case, and nor should I expect it.
We're gonna be a little bit more formal and budgeting the salaries and having salary schedules and that type of thing. So this will get lined up. But so this was a catch up, but I think we'll, as part of the budget process going forward, like to see a salary schedule by everybody and map it to the budget here. So that's more norm, so we'll work on moving towards that. So things will be a little bit clearer in the future. Okay.
So with that, I guess I will make a motion to approve the assessor's budget. 030 is the line number, and the amount is 133,058. That's Tim Turan speaking, sorry.
Andy Olson, I'll second that.
Great. Any further discussion on the assessor's budget? All right, anyone opposed to approving the assessor's budget at $133,058? Seeing none, anyone abstain? Great. Motion passes at 133,058. Okay, Board of Assessment Appeals. So this budget is down $215 from previous year's $325,000, most of that being $325, and most of that being in the professional development.
I, Tim Turan, 035 Board of Assessment Appeals, would like to make the suggestion that the motion that we approve the $110.
This is Dave Challenger. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Anyone opposed to approving Board of Assessment Appeals at $110? All right. Seeing none, any abstentions? All right. Motion approves Assessor Board of Assessment Appeals at $110. Okay. Next up is tax collector. So, Selectmen's request at $68,050, up $5,212 from prior year. The majority of that outside salary increases is the printing of tax bills, and rate book is up $4,647. So
I guess my question would be, why would that be?
that's where, yeah, we're gonna, if Bob or if you have any information why that would almost double.
This is Bob. Yes, if you look at not year to date, but previously expended years, that line has been, for the most part, underfunded for a couple of years. Some of the costs got rolled into the central office services and they shouldn't have been. That 9,600 is a reflection of what we actually expect to spend this coming fiscal year. Again, it's more somewhat of an increase, but more of really a correction than a true total increase.
I mean, so this is about becoming more finitely accurate on the numbers, Bob. So the money comes out of central office, it comes here?
Correct. And it's also honestly a matter, this is Bob, this is a matter of being a little more careful and making sure we're at least asking for the budget to reflect what the current expenditures are.
Sounds right to me. I mean, I have no idea what the right amount to spend on something like this is, so it seems right to me. If we're getting more accurate, that's great.
Do we have something from Quality Data that gives us this estimate? I guess
We've got, this is Bob, we've got the current year billing so far and an estimate of what the major billing obviously comes up with the June tax bills. And that's what we expect
Okay,
we're gonna be looking at.
thank you.
All right. If I don't hear any discussion, it's Tim Turan, and I will make a motion that we approve the tax collector's bill, budget, I apologize, at $68,050. That's 11 is the number, right?
Right.
That's all right, 040 is the line number for the tax collector, and it is 68050, and it's Tim Turan making a motion to approve.
Somebody second that?
It's Audrey. I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the tax collector department budget? All right. Anyone opposed to approving the tax collector budget at $68,050? Seeing none. Anyone abstentions? No abstentions. Motion passes. Tax collector's budget approved at $68,050. All right. Town council. Town council requested budget, $39,000, no increase from the 2021 budget, and just a shift between regular town attorney and labor attorney.
And I'm assuming that's going to be a function of dealing with all of the unions this year for salary increases. Right, it's Tim Turan speaking.
This is Bob. Yeah, Tim, we've got to negotiate both union contracts. It will help some that we did the 1-year extension and laid somewhat of a groundwork. So I don't expect a huge issue with the contracts, but I did move 5,000 out of the general legal counsel because our expenses there seem to have gone down, and moved it over to labor just to allow a cushion for the negotiations.
And I think it's a good call. So I, for one, Tim Turan, will make a motion to approve 050 town council at 39,000 flat.
This is Dave. I'll second it.
Great. Any additional discussion on the town council budget? All right. Anyone opposed to approving the town council budget at $39,000? Any abstentions? All right, seeing none. So motion approved, town council budget at $39,000. Town budget is town clerk. So town clerk budget is up slightly, mostly due to the salary line. The budget request, approved amount is $114,900. The budget increase of $1,092, of which about $117 decreased in some smaller budgets, and the salary line increased the 2% at $1,199.
Now, this is Dave. I'm just curious, why would the assistant clerk's salary go down?
Yeah, this is Bob. Again, Dave, the budget request for 21 to 22 was based on what's the individual actually earning per hour times the number of hours they worked, and then bump for 2%.
Okay, so it's not really a decrease in the salary, it's just an adjustment to what we're actually paying.
It's right. The salary figures, and I didn't realize this previously, the salary figures in most of the department's requests were in error, and then as they were submitted, those errors just got repeated. So this year we said we're doing a full stop. the salary figures came basically out of my office. Joanne did it. Sit down with the hourly wage per employee and figure out where they should fit in.
This is Dave. I would make a motion that we approve the town clerk budget for $114,900.
Tim Turan, I would second it.
Any further discussion on the town clerk budget? All right, for none, anyone opposed to approving the town clerk budget at $114,900? All right, abstentions? All right, motion passes, town clerk budget approved at $114,900. Planning and zoning. Anyone's coming up next here. The planning and zoning budget is at $200, the same, no increase from the prior year.
I, Tim Turan, would suggest that I would motion that we approve this line 070 planning and zoning budget at $200.
Need a second?
It's Audrey. I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the planning and zoning budget? All right. Anyone opposed to approving the planning and zoning budget at $200? Any abstentions? All right. Motion approved, planning and zoning budget at $200. Wetlands budget.
ZBA?
Did you skip ZBA?
You just skip ZBA?
Did I skip CBA?
Yes.
Sorry. Screwed up my titles in my form here. So yeah, Department 75, ZBA. Last year's budget, 110. This year's request at 110. No change for prior year.
This is Dave. I'll make a motion. We approve ZBA for 110.
Tim Turan, I'll second.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed to approving the ZBA budget at $110? Any abstentions? Right. Motion passes, approve ZBA budget at $110. All right. Now we get to wetlands. Department 85, budget of $100, no increase from the prior year.
This is Dave. I'll make a motion. We approve wetlands for $100.
Tim Turan would second.
Discussion? Anyone opposed to approving the wetlands budget at $100? Any abstentions? Great. Motion passes. Wetlands budget at $100. Central services.
Tim, could somebody talk us through legal notices and the wild fluctuations over time?
Yeah, this is Bob. Legal notices are primarily the meeting calls that have to be published in a newspaper circulated throughout the town.
Yeah.
Well, until recently, the options were the Hartford Courant or the Middletown Press. Now that with this year, with the Haddam Killingworth news coming out. That meets the statutory requirement for a newspaper to use, and it is much less expensive.
Got it. Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, this is Bob. Please don't make a big deal of it. I don't want Ed Munster to hear it.
Well said, and the buck stops here, I hope. Tim Turan would make a motion that we can, for line 090 central services, if there is no discussion, I would make a motion to pass the 133,581.
Andrew Olson, I'll second that.
Okay, any additional questions or discussion?
Yeah, this is Dave. Bob, during the Board of Selectmen meeting on payroll processing, that 8275 was mentioned as an estimate. Is that final now?
It's the best we're going to get from the check writer, the payroll company we used. At the Board of Selectmen meeting, when I was first talking about it, to prepare that budget, it was just, I'm going to take the exact same figure, figuring it was going to be close. And since that time, check writers came and said, yes, they expect it'll be the same charge.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions or discussion on central services budget? Anyone opposed to approving the central services budget at $133,581? Any abstentions? Okay. Seeing none, central services budget motion passes to approve the budget at $133,581. We're going to skip over insurance and benefits. So it usually takes into March or April to get that some good health insurance numbers. And, looking at the experience rating to give us a better estimate. So we will skip over insurance benefits for tonight. So the next budget after that is economic development. Our budget is $7,000, no change from the prior year.
This is Dave. I'll make a motion. We approve economic development, line 120, in the amount of $7,000.
I'll second it. Tim Turan.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed to approving the economic development budget at $7,000? Any abstentions? Motion approved. Economic development budget at $7,000. Okay, next up, land use. The budget is increased. Budget is increased $17,000. Budget of $289,571, an increase of $17,141 from prior year. There is a new line item in this budget for $5,000 for Higginham Cove. And then it looks like the rest of the increases are related to salaries.
I guess what I'm wondering, it's Tim Turan speaking, Joe, is if I look at the salaries, with the exception of for the town planner, when I look at the building official or the LUO coordinator or line 12504 for whatever that is, CO CEO WED or LZO admin quarter, it's not a 2% increase, it's 4%. In one case for the LUO, it's 16%. And then I don't know why mileage is up so much, since you would have thought that we were driving more this year in COVID because they can't talk, they have to go look. But I guess I'm good with spending more money on land use. I will be transparent. I'd say rather than cut the brush once, cut the brush twice in the cove and figure out how we can manage the salaries.
Yeah, I think this is another department that, because there's multiple salaries to look at, I think it's the same reason. So I could do a little bit more research on this, because I would like to know also what's wrong with the 21 budget so we can manage that. Because the increases that we're seeing, then that means we're going to have some issues in 21. So I do want to also, at least for the bigger department, take a look at what's going on there, so we know how to manage 21. I mean, salaries are salaries if that's what's approved. And the budget is secondary to that. So if this is what the people are being paid and it's increased, I understand what we're saying, but I do want to understand 21 also, that is the case. And we should know, like, that the LUO coordinator, it's up 17%, so it just doesn't look good. So
No, I'm with you.
So I think we do need some more clarity on that. It is what it is at the end of the day, but I guess I would like to see that scheduled out and understand what happened in 21, or at least not understand what happened, but just know the numbers in 21 and be able to project 22. Because if we're basing on an actual, it's level setting it, which was definitely something we needed to do. So I don't know if that's something we can improve the budget and just get more data later on. We can always revisit something if need be, but I think they went through and trued up all the numbers, and we're just having better data against a budget that might not have been updated accurately for 21. And just because it's new, and I didn't specifically look at the backup, but tell us the Higgin & Co, Bob, just what that specifically is for, clean up or something, or is it like, what is the actual money going to be used for?
This is Bob. I don't know the figures that we paid this year because it would be different anyway, but we paid a contractor to go in there and do extensive brush cutting. We had some trees removed. I mean, basically, when the town took ownership of the cove a few years back and started working on it, they went in. Town went in and did the same thing. I assume with a contractor, but I don't know that for a fact. But cut the grass, cut down the overgrowth, got rid of the scrub growth, and now it's a few years. Then it went undone for a few years, so we had to go back in and do the same amount of work. The 5,000 is intended to be more a semi-annual ongoing maintenance of it, so we don't let it fall down to the level it did and then spend a lot of money one time to get it corrected and go through that way.
For what it's worth, it's Tim Turan speaking. And this is kudos to Bill. Great that he did this, because what you saw, again, I'm a big user of it, so I apologize for being a little bit biased in this, but you saw many more people taking advantage of being able to use the cove this winter because of Bill's efforts. It's a lot easier to do things there. I suspect you'll see it in the spring as well, because the Cove Road is easier to access, and people will, as we always worry in the town, saying we're a river town, but we don't have a lot of access to the river. This makes it a lot easier to walk down to the river and enjoy it than it ever has been before, since the EPA finished their work. So this happens to be at least from my perspective, a positive step forward.
Yeah, this is Bob. I'll put in my feelings on it. To be honest, I walked down to the Cove for the first time sometime after I had been elected. I looked around and said, yeah, okay, it's got some historic foundations, but as far as, honestly, I was not terribly impressed. I was let down based on what other people have said. I went down shortly after they did most of the major clearing, and my reaction was, okay, now I get it. This is a much more attractive spot than my first impression. So it does make a big difference, as Tim just said.
I guess my question is, why land use? This seems like a public works line. I don't think it really belongs in the land use budget. Is that a land use?
Joe, this is Bob. I'll agree with you. I was looking at, even though I've looked at this budget a few times tonight as I was getting ready today for this meeting, that same thought hit me. So we can move that 5,000. We can find a more appropriate place for it, but that's wherever it ends up, that 5,000 is for.
Yep, I agree. If we have something, we should take care of it. So I think, I certainly support the budget. I just think it should be in a different place.
I would second that movement. I think that's a very good idea. Tim Lansby.
Okay. So we can look at it. I feel like Public Works, but we can take a look at it a little bit more closely. We won't get to Public Works anyway for a little bit. We can see if there's a better spot than that. So we can definitely support the budget line, just in a different location. So that would, for passing the land use budget, that would change the recommendation from 289,571 to 284,571.
Again, I just would like to say, with the clarification of the lifts and salaries, just so we understand them.
Okay, yep, we can add that that could be standard. I mean, the smaller departments are easier, but we're approving them, but subject to just getting a more clarity on salaries rolling from year to year, both looking at actual and looking at budget, so that we're all clear.
Yep.
What happened, it is what it is, but it's great that looks like we're getting accurate information going forward. I think Public Works is another one where the increase is going to look higher than it really is, because I'm not sure that the calculations were accurate looking at where we ended June 30 anyway. So we can add that in general, that we'll revisit salaries, and once we have a better understanding, and if we need to update something, but I think we can certainly approve it with that caveat.
All right, so this is Dave then. I'll make a motion that we approve 125 land use office in the amount of 284,571, subject to the salary review.
Yeah, and I will second it.
I'll second it, Wayne.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion on the land use budget? Hearing none, anyone opposed to approving the land use budget at $284,571? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Land use budget approved at $284,571. Okay. Next one, 130 is conservation activities. The budget is $2,000. no increase from the prior year.
So this is Dave. I guess my question on this one is, they spent $75 2 years ago. They haven't spent anything this year. Why do we keep giving them 1,000?
It's Tim Turan, I would echo that question.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
yeah, we're just talking about conservation activities, not the Salmon River watershed, because they usually request the money way in advance, correct?
Correct.
All right. Yep, so I'll have to defer to Bob, Kate, if you have any perspective on that. I'm not sure do we have a conservation person, like who would decide to spend money or evaluate that? Is there someone in charge of that conceptually?
Yeah, this is Bob. Yes, but to be quite honest, at this point, I don't remember which department. I assume it was. I'm not going to make an assumption. I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you.
Okay. So do we want
This
to,
is Kate. I mean, we do have a conservation commission chaired by Gail Reynolds.
okay, so is that line really for the commission versus activity, or we just need to get clarity on that line, I guess.
This is Bob. Let me get clarity and come back on this
Okay.
one.
Okay, so we will table activity budget. All right, just lost track of where it was. Okay. So that finishes up general government contingency. We're just going to save that to the end. That's normally one of the last budgets we take a look at. So I think we can skip that one. Does everyone have the energy to keep going a little bit longer?
It's Tim, I do.
Yeah, Dave, I do.
All right.
Keep on going.
So Haddam Volunteer Fire Department, 200. So this budget has an increase of 11,315. Requested budget 245,800, an increase of $11,315. So the biggest increases are for small equipment maintenance and supplies, and increase in administrative and other of 16,460. And the incentive plan, a decrease of 8,000.
Yeah, this is Bob. I can give you the high level view of that. Small equipment and maintenance, the majority of that increase is Haddam has to increase the number of the turnout gear, the protective equipment the firefighters wear, the pants, the hats, the helmet, the boots. Normally they buy 6 sets per year is what they've budgeted for the last few years to try to keep the budget low. That really hasn't replenished their supply. They have to upgrade that up the number from 6 to 10. A full set of turnout gear or bunker gear, as we call it, is in the $3,500 to $4,000 range. So that's the majority of the increase in the small equipment and maintenance line. The admin personnel and others frankly is a COVID anomaly. If you look at their year-to-date expenditures, one of the largest expense items in that particular line are the required physical for firefighters. Most of the Haddam firefighters get a physical every other year. Well, when you get this year, the number of physicals that they actually got was much less than normal because doctors, basically because of the pandemic. It was hard to get into a doctor's office, or members were reluctant to go to a doctor's office. So those physicals that weren't done this year have to be performed next year to bring everybody up to speed. So that was the big increase in that line. The incentive plan, the decrease is just the 53,000 was based on no experience with the incentive plan because it's new. This year was this current fiscal year is the first year we've done payouts under that. It's the 45,000 is fine tuned. It'll probably be fine tuned again after this year is complete for next year's budget.
So, but for the physicals, will we expect that line to be lower in 21? Is it going to be any, just, it sounds like it's a shift.
Yes, for now, they'll underspend it this year, at least on the physicals. I assume the whole line will come in under, and that's been built into next year. And then we'll have to the department will have to take a look at how we're going to handle it rather than having all this many physicals in 1 year. It hopefully will even back out a little bit.
Hey, Bob, this is Mark Adalberg. I guess the incentive plan is paid out at the end of the fiscal year. Is there an idea on where you guys are going to end up? Is it closer to the $53,000 that was budgeted, or what? Just curious.
This is Bob. I expect it'll be somewhat less than that. I mean, that plan is based on the real variable in that plan is how many firefighters elect to participate and how many meet the minimum requirements of 10% of the calls and a couple of others. And so again, each year as we run it, we get a little better at saying, no, not all 20 firefighters or 50 firefighters are going to get there. It looks like more realistically 30 will, or whatever the number is.
Great. All right, thank you.
And this is Bob, just as a final note on that incentive plan is designed to get more firefighters to the calls as opposed to more people to join. So really, you want us to be spending every dollar in there because you want all the firefighters there. But like I said, it's being fine tuned as we get some experience with it.
And Bob, this is Dave. Just to make sure I understand truck maintenance, this line went down 10% primarily because we've upgraded to newer equipment.
Yeah, it was newer equipment. It was the one piece of their equipment from the Haddam side got transferred to the Haddam next side. But again, primarily because the equipment is more modern.
This is Dave. I would make a motion then that we approve line 200, Haddam Volunteer Fire Department, the amount of $245,800.
This is Mark Adalberg. I second that motion.
Any additional questions or discussion? Okay, none. Anyone opposed to approving Haddam Volunteer Fire Department at $245,800? Mentions? All right, motion passes. Haddam Volunteer Fire Department approved that budget, approved at $245,800. All right, Haddam Neck Volunteer Fire Department.
Bob, this is Dave. Did we upgrade equipment in Haddam Neck? Because truck maintenance stayed flat here, or went up 17%.
Yeah, Dave, this is Bob. The budget overall is flat, but I did shift some money from the incentive line again to truck maintenance with the addition of, like I just said, we ended up with a piece of equipment on the Haddam side. It augmented what we already had, so maintenance costs have gone up for that. And again, our trucks some of them are approaching the end of their normal useful life. We're seeing a little higher maintenance cost per unit. So that's why that's been adjusted.
Okay. So the budget is request is 82,950, no change from the prior year. As Bob just described, there was a shift from the incentive plan to the maintenance.
All right, Tim Turan would like to make a motion that we approve line 201 for the Haddam Neck Fire Department for the amount of 82,950.
Mark Alberg, I second that motion.
Any additional discussion? Anyone opposed to approving Haddam Neck Volunteer Fire Department budget at 82,950? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Haddam Neck Volunteer Fire Department budget approved at 82,950. By police, we are gonna pass on that one until we get some better numbers. Bobby will let us know when they finally send the letter and the estimate, which will probably be April.
Yes.
All right. Bring us to 215, animal control. Budget request of $20,150, increase of $653, which is in the salary line. Again, it's higher than the 2%, but again, we've talked about that this is we're level setting that, and we can approve it with the same caveat if necessary, that we'll at least do an analysis on that so everybody can see the transition from 21 to 22.
This is Dave. I would make a motion that we approve 215 animal control, $20,150.
This is Sandy Olson. I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Any discussion on the animal control budget? All right, hearing none. Anyone opposed to approving the animal control budget at $20,150? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes. Animal control budget approved at $20,150. Emergency management is the next budget, 220. So this budget request is $11,910, increase of $3,800. The increase being a new line for the Everbridge notification system. So I will ask, I assume this is a maintenance fee now that we purchased the system. Is that what the $3,800 now would be an annual cost?
Yeah, this is Bob. It's Everbridge. Technically, it's a service we're buying.
I see.
It's the mass notification service that puts out the emergency warnings and the updates. It's not the one that we have for the Haddam website announcements that you can sign up for and get the websites. These are more emergency operations. I will point out that this is our cost of the system. We're in it jointly with Killingworth, because if the two towns went together, and got one account, because they're based on the population, we could get a cheaper per person rate than if each town went in individually. So the actual charge we pay is double that, but then Killingworth reimburses us for their half, and we end up with roughly $3,800 for the system.
This is Wayne. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the emergency manager at $11,910.
Wayne, this is Bob. Did I misunderstand you? Did you say 1,000 or 11,900?
$11,910.
Thank you, sir.
Tim Turan, I will second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency management budget? Okay, hearing none. Anyone opposed to approving the emergency management budget at $11,910? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes, approving emergency management budget at $11,910. Okay. Fire marshal. So this budget request is $21,969, an increase of $973 related to the salary line.
I think we need, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
This is Dave. Was there a change in the deputy fire marshal that caused it to go up that much, or is this just a more accurate representation?
This is Bob. That number reflects a couple of things. A more accurate reflection of representation is one, but also part of it is, the deputy is sort of an on-call backup, and the use has gone up.
Now I'm just pondering because I think it seems to make sense to me. I just don't see where the use has gone up on the numbers.
This is Bob. I know, for example, this year our fire marshal just came back. He was out on a extended leave of absence. The deputy filled in for him the whole time.
Okay, so the 365 obviously doesn't reflect the truth of the numbers yet.
That's correct.
And then just, not that I think he's a terrific guy and does a great job. The salary being up 4% just reflects, again, it's sort of like a holding pattern from 2 years ago, and now trying to right size it based on hours spent, or what is the 4% versus 2% change? Forgive me.
Yeah, well, again, this is Bob. 2% of that 4 is just the regular bump, and the other 2% is a more accurate reflection of what that budget line should have been.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in the spirit of moving forward, I would say, this is Tim Turan, I'll make a motion for line item 225 for the fire marshal, and the amount is $21,969, and I would make a motion to approve it.
Andrew Olson, I'll second it.
Any additional questions or discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Anyone opposed to approving the fire marshal budget at $21,969? Any abstentions? All right, hearing none. Motion passes. Approval of the fire marshal budget at $21,969. All right. Dispatch services is is on hold, or at least it was at the point we got this last week. I don't know if you have any additional information, or is it, we're still waiting for our assessment?
Yeah, this is Bob. I don't have anything more. It's just an estimate that was put in there, so hopefully I'll get something soon from Valley Shore.
It certainly seems, I mean, I guess it's more reflective of prior years than it is of last year. Of this year.
This is Bob. The Valley Shore is basically it's a formula to come up with a number, but it doesn't change all that much. So that's a realistic reflect. The appropriated budget should be about what we spend this year. I guess that's true in every line, but this one more than a lot of others should be pretty close to realistic.
Okay, so that finishes up public safety. I think this is a good stopping point. The next budget is public works, which we'll probably at least till next meeting, or again after, depending if we can combine that with capital. But I think we made a good amount of progress tonight. I appreciate everybody attention and getting through this, and so we'll take a look at those few things and the one or two things that the salary items, and then Bob will take a look at the one or two questions that we left open, and if we, any additional information that's received, I'm sure that will come out to the board and fill in any holes, and continue on next week or next meeting with starting probably with the social services department.
Well done, Joe.
Thank you. But this, we'll move on to public comment. Anyone wants to make any comments? Our progress to date. Okay. All right. Seeing no public comments, no one raise their hand or anything. That will conclude our meeting for tonight. Again, thank you, everybody. Just need a motion to adjourn.
This is Dave. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next meeting.
Good night. Take care.
Nice day.
Good night, everyone.
Yep.